Thank you for coming down tonight. We have a few more budgets to go over, but I believe Jerry wanted to speak before we get started.
So, I come away with the feeling that it's pretty hard to evaluate a 35-page budget in a half an hour or 50 minutes. And I don't know how much time we want to spend on the school budget, if you want to have them back in. I had a conversation with, what's that gal who's on the school committee?
Well, Molly Smith is the
Molly.
chair. Okay.
Molly. Oh my God. The only word that kept coming to mind was Sarah for some strange reason. And I didn't get a lot of answers, and I could follow up, but I didn't have as much time as I would have wanted to spend on the phone. So the question is, I don't want to waste my time. I'm not going to look at this budget and look at, each page and what happened from year to year, mostly from during 18, if nobody's interested. But if you're interested, I'll do it, and we could bring them back in, because I still feel that $1.5 million over 3 years is a lot of money. And I want the schools to be good, but keep in mind that I also looked at the demographics of West Bridgewater, and at least 35% of the town doesn't have kids in school. So we have an obligation to them too. And, at some point it becomes a law of diminishing returns. Your taxes go so high that it becomes an unattractive place to live. So that's really what I'm struggling with. When are we going to hit that tipping point? Most of the other budgets are pretty simple, although, and people have held the line, although I think we're getting to a point in West Bridgewater where maybe we won't be able to hold the line on 1.5% of taxes, taxes going up. Maybe we won't. Maybe that's just a reality that we have to accept as a committee and as a town. I've read other towns' finance committee meeting notes. I've been doing what I can do to figure out what the right thing to do is. So, are you interested in it or not? Just curious.
Well, I am, but and I call it frustration. It took me a couple of years to become more accepting of municipal contractual agreements, that they are what they are. They've been negotiated, and that's it. They're done. So of the school budget, for instance, it's percentage of the whole budget.
Yeah, but there are towns where, it has happened where it's the finance committee in the town, that maybe the budget came in at 10 million and the town approved 9. And it was like, okay, now we only got 9, so now you're gonna have to make cuts. That has happened.
Yeah, I did a little bit of looking into it, and
I'm not saying that should happen.
No,
I'm
I
just
know what you're
saying-
saying.
from what I understand, and I'm not an expert, I just did a little bit of research, independent research, and from what I understand, you have to at least fund the school at the level that they were at the prior year. So you have to at least do that. And, playing kind of devil's advocate, well, what if you don't? Well, then the town has to come up with the money somewhere. So so if we, I don't know, just pick $10 million and said the school can have $10 million, and the budget last year was 10.5, the town somehow has to come up with the other 500,000. So that's my understanding of the rules. I don't know if that's true, and if you know.
Yeah. There is what we call foundational budget spending. And it is a formula that is generated from a division of higher education and obviously it's a division of the State House. And so it's called foundational level and net school spending. Tonight you could have Southeast Regional. We are at level funding with them. And so on net school spending. And so he will tell you that you're at the bare minimum that you can spend with them. We are in excess of that number at our local school. So you cannot spend below that number
Okay.
because the state requires you to do it. However, they can't control you, they can't throw you in jail. So what they do is that if you go below that number, then you lose your state aid.
Okay.
So in this case here, chapter 70 is say $3 million, and we get about another $650,000 in state aid. So you're losing $4 million or so at that
Yeah.
point. So and it's stair-stepped. It's not. It's if you're 3% below, I think that they cut you 3% or some. There's some formula. Honestly, I've never seen it, so I haven't really had
Yeah.
any first-hand experience. But
Yeah.
that's what they're referring to.
I see, okay. And, I think the alternatives, if you don't fund, you know, kind of what they're asking for is they have to make cuts, so that means
Right.
bigger class sizes. There's not a lot they can cut, right? So bigger class sizes, you know, laying off teachers. I mean, there's only so many ways they
Right,
can go
but,
about it, right?
and it, you know, and that's, those are all, but I think those, I almost feel like they all have to be in play, because, I mean, what, you know, I know the parents want the teachers, and I get that, I had kids in schools, but it didn't always, I mean, you know, we're still talking about $1.5 million over 3
Yeah.
years.
It is, it's a lot of money.
It's a
And
lot of
I'm
money.
not sure I know what you're asking, though. Are you looking for our opinions on whether or not you should delve deeper into
Yeah,
it?
do
so
you
that we
care?
can get it?
Do you care?
Yeah, we care.
Yeah.
If you
I
want,
know
I
the
will do it. If you
taxpayers
don't,
care.
if you pretty much had your mind made up, you're gonna vote for it, then I'm not gonna spend the
mean, I
time.
do
Does the
have-
school committee vet
That's just
everything?
it. They
Yeah.
have their
I
own
know
committee.
they, you know, they have a vested interest in a lot of them in education and so forth.
Right, but they
I
do
think
have a
that's
whole
their
committee.
role, right? That, isn't that their,
It's part
one
of
of
their
their
role,
biggest
yeah.
parts of their role is to really,
I mean, I watched
Work on the
the
budget.
presentation, there weren't a lot of questions coming from the school committee when they were, when Patty was presenting things. There wasn't any, hold it a minute, let's,
Yeah.
you know, there wasn't a
Yeah.
lot of that going on
Right.
at all.
But wasn't there a lot of concern about the unfunded mandates?
yeah.
Mhm.
A
And-
lot.
And that was something that a budget cannot control.
Right.
But they could kind of predict.
They'd have to make cuts in other areas, but
Yeah.
just keep in mind that this year it was the unfunded mandates, last year it was the step and track increases, and the year before that, it was something else, it had something to do with
Kindergarten.
transportation.
Yeah.
Oh.
All day
And-
kindergarten, whatever, it's always
And,
been,
and this year, it's also those retiring people.
Yeah, right.
That's a part of it.
right, right.
But the different items that they've come up with make sense to me. And I do have some faith in their budget because I've seen, it seems as though they've always had a good budget every year. They have a low per pupil
Yeah.
cost. They're not asking for huge increases. They seem to have explanations.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, in being on the finance committee, I'm probably a little more trusting of their budget than I should be. I used to be on the subcommittee, so I got to learn the school's budget really well.
I mean, I think the areas that they can push, and I'm assuming that they do, is, you know, the big expenditures with like the 19 or 20 special ed, where they have to do the outplacements. Are they, you know, doing their due diligence to make sure that it's the least restrictive, which Patty talked about, and it seemed like they are.
I know in the situations I've seen personally in town where
Yeah.
some of the, and
Yeah.
they drew this out so long. I felt so bad for the family.
Yeah.
They clearly needed the assistance
Yeah.
and they made them jump every hoop.
Yeah, so,
And
I mean, if they're
To
doing
everyone's
their-
credit
Yeah,
as well.
Right, if they're
right.
doing their due diligence there, then there's not a lot more they can do, right?
Right, right.
Well, in the end, and we all know this, we make recommendations
Right.
In the
that
town,
aren't
yeah.
always followed by the
Right,
public either.
right, right, they still have their say.
Right.
And I suspect that if we were to make major recommendations to cut, that we wouldn't,
It wouldn't be very popular.
no.
Well, you know, just keep in mind that not 100% of the town has children in the schools. So there's two sides to the coin. And if you're content with taxes going up more than they probably, you know, 2.5%
No doubt.
to raise the money, then we'll be content with that.
Yeah.
But it's what kind of, how do we feel as a committee? How are we
I
gonna
mean,
vote?
to answer your question, though, I would definitely be interested in any research or any additional
Absolutely,
information that
yeah.
you can glean if you want to, you know, go through it at a line by line. And I think if we talked about it at this committee and people are watching, they'll, you know, the taxpayers will benefit from that knowledge. May not change how they vote or how they
Right.
feel, but at least they'd go in with their eyes wide open.
Right. Okay.
I mean, are the increases, for instance, I don't want to belabor it, but in surrounding towns, are they pretty much equivalent increases every year, or are they less?
And I looked at statistics too. I mean, you know, you can go from town to town and how much do they spend per pupil and blah, blah,
Yeah, yeah.
blah.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, take a town like Westwood. We spend 12,000 something per pupil. Westwood, which is the median income, is gotta be a heck of a lot higher than West Bridgewater. They're only spending 14,000 per pupil. Spread that out over their tax base and their income level, that's not even a Probably not even a
Probably
spit
most
in the
of their kids are
bucket.
going to private school.
Well, but is it also a function
You know, I mean, so,
of
and you can,
how
so you
many
can find people
you're
spending
spreading
more,
it over,
people spending
right?
less. You can find anything you want to find if you
Yeah.
pull from the statistics. So I'm not really sure how, valid they are. I'm not going to look at towns that are spending more and spending less, because you'll find towns that are spending more, you'll find towns that are spending
Right.
less. Like,
But
what's good
it's
for,
about how many people they spread it over as well, right? So how many
it's a
kids
fairly
they
small
have in
town. I
this.
mean, I have no idea. The population can't be more than 15,000. It's probably twice West Bridgewater.
Yeah.
I know I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right. Along those lines, I'm just curious, do we know what the trajectory has been as far as like school ratings for West Bridgewater compared to other towns? Are we getting better over time? Are we getting worse? Are we staying steady?
According to the MCAS, we're doing better, but I don't
doing
know the
better?
statistics.
I have no
Yeah.
idea.
So,
Just-
I would
We
just
could-
temper,
yeah.
I would temper it by saying that I don't think that the trend is up, because we're already in the top echelon. You know, I like using football examples, it's only a 16-game schedule. You win 12 games a year, there's not many more that you can win. Their MCAS, I mean, they already have a 98% graduation rate.
Yeah.
So the trend's not gonna go much higher, because
Right.
you all
Where-
wanna start
where
the
they
ceiling.
are.
Right.
Okay.
If
So-
you're starting at 50%, you got a place to go. If you're starting at 98, there's not much room to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but, because I just want to answer the question honestly, but I will tell you from all the statistics that are available as to what the output is of the school, I would say they're in the upper echelon throughout the entire state. So they are doing something right. And I think part of that is evident by the fact that we accept about 30 to 40 school choice children a year, and we get 3 to 4 times the requests. So parents, when they're doing their homework, they're not trying to send their child to a school that's a bad school, because why would you do that?
Right.
Right, no, I had always heard that it was good,
Yeah, it's
and
the
that's
top
why
echelon of
we stay
parents.
here, is because, and then, how do property values change, like, along with that? Like,
Right.
this is a goal, like Sharon or, another upper echelon town.
Well, and again, I think, you and I have had this conversation. Sooner or later, I think as a town, you have to decide what do you want to be,
Right.
Or
Or who do you want to appeal to, and,
Avon, for example, people like referring to Avon, but Avon has a humongous commercial base, and they crush that commercial base. We're at 27 and change per thousand, they're at $35 per thousand. So they crush it. But that's because Christmas tree shops is not moving,
Yeah.
Right? They've made the investment. And so Avon has made that decision. Other towns like Dover, for example, they have put every restriction possible where you can have just about no business there.
That's right.
They don't need it.
But my point is that was a decision they made probably 100 years ago.
Right.
So they made a decision where they said, we are going to have humongous tax bills and keep businesses out. That was a decision that the town must have made, and that's why they're swinging 18, 20,000 a year in a tax bill. Sooner or later, as a town, you'll have to make a decision. Do we want to continue funding all of these services? And if so, we have to have a commensurate increase. Do we want to be perceived as a wealthier town from that standpoint? Or do we not want to be perceived as such, and therefore we're going to have to cut some services? That's just a decision that
Right.
you as residents, you're
Right.
going to have to come to terms with.
That's right. That's really all it is. We've got we got that marijuana referendum thing, and that's money to the town.
Clearly.
And just going back to the school committee thing, I did speak to Molly Smith as well, about her and I getting together and trying to put the budget in the template that we're used to, so that next year we can have apples to apples, and that we're all on the same
It is
page.
good, but it's 35 pages, and taking 35 pages and putting on one page, it just loses a lot. I still want the 35 pages.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, you'll still get them.
you'll still receive it. Truthfully, usually you have that one pager, but they
Right.
usually give us the budget about a week in advance, and we got the budget the same day.
Yes.
So we didn't have time to punch it in, because when you punch it in, first of all, you have to make sure there's no errors. Second of all, then you have to then distribute it to all the 17 books. It's just laborious, and it's not the only thing that this office staff is doing.
Right.
So they got it same day, and we just
Yeah.
didn't have the time.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, but usually in the future, if they get it to us early, then we get it punched in.
Okay.
And because when you do vote on your budgets,
It's
then
in
you're
that
going to
format.
see that one pager, and you will still have the 35 pager as documentation.
Yeah.
Did that help? Was that what you
Yeah,
were
I'll
looking
just keep
for?
looking at it. I mean, you know, I don't want to take a one-sided look. I want to take a two-sided look. Because I really don't know. I really don't know. And it's not that I have decided. I just don't know. I'm worried, but I'm worried for both reasons, like I said. Worried about the money, but I want the schools to be good. So,
Yeah.
you know, what do we do?
Right.
I mean, the reality is math is math. And I'm not trying to sway the argument one way or the other at all. It's just that obviously I'm closer to some of the numbers. Is that our tax levy right now, which is the amount that you tax, is somewhere around $22-23 million. So if you raise it 2.5%, you're going to raise somewhere around $500,000 year over year in tax revenue. The school is going to consume 100% of that.
Yeah.
There's other increases you have to fund. Now, right now, we have new growth. So we've been able to do it and actually not raise it to 2.5.
Yeah.
But one, you're not always gonna have the
Right.
growth. And obviously, as budgets get larger, then even just a 3% increase in a few years on a $15 million budget, now you're still talking $450,000. So obviously, that's what you have to all weigh. And eventually, that means it comes at the expense of something else, or we stay true to the 2.5 and you raise it
Right.
2.5 a year. And truthfully, because we have not raised it to 2.5 the last 4 years, we don't have to have we don't have to stop at 2.5.
Right.
We could raise it 5. We have $1.5 million that we can actually, additionally raise if you wanted to raise. Obviously, we've all been trying to be fiscally prudent and not do that. But obviously, that's the squeeze that I think that you're referring to.
Right, right. We're going to have to make a decision at some point. I mean, as a town, I mean, it's, you know this. It's exceedingly hard to fund an entire town off taxpayer revenue. It's like brutal.
You know, and unfortunately,
She
there's
okay?
just
She
a lot
okay?
of
Yeah, she's got a cold.
Oh,
there's just a lot of realities. You know, I mean, the police department are under more pressure. Our fire department, especially with the EMT services, they are under a lot more pressure. There are more mandates. They have to carry more drugs on the vehicles than they used to before. Even something as simple, we talk about the opiate crisis, which obviously has a real negative personal connotation, meaning we all know people that have been affected by it. But just even in our police department budget, because we have to carry Narcan, that's a financial, that's something else financially we have to pay for. So there's additional pressures there. And the school is no different. The school has additional pressures as well. You put it all together, there's one person getting squeezed, and it's all of us as taxpayers.
yes, the taxpayer. Yeah.
But we have a bylaw on the size of classes, don't we, in this town? Do we?
I don't
I don't think so.
What
And
was, does
you guys,
anyone
I just
recall
kind
what?
of want to put a pause on this conversation. We're
okay.
at 7 o'clock, so we're already
Okay,
10
all
minutes
right.
behind.
Oh, okay. Oh, the Southeast Regional, I'm sorry, yeah.
It was,
Let me go in the hall, they'll probably.
thank you.
I'm sorry.
No.
I really apologize. I didn't really want to take up a lot of time.
You shouldn't apologize, no.
I think it's good discussion. Isn't there more to it than this one page?
For which one? Southeastern?
Yeah.
No, I think it's just,
What did he do? Just give us the,
I think he gives us
I just have
something.
one page, oh, maybe.
that's funny. He usually has it, it's usually in here.
Is it?
His whole, all his charts and everything.
Oh, I thought he would give
Yeah,
it.
not this year, I didn't see any.
Wow.
Do you have any
This is the
other?
Superintendent of Southeast Regional. If you want to sit right here.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
How are you?
Good. I know, I usually do the Board of Selectmen, so you know Mark, I'm sure.
And if you could do me a favor, just introduce yourself so that way the ladies
Sure.
in the minutes will.
Sure.
and even-
And I'm gonna pass these out too, because I don't think you received.
No, we didn't, and we were just saying that.
Yeah, usually Red mails them out, so. I'll wait till you get them.
Saving money this year. Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave extras too, so.
No, and I'll need.
You want to pass those back?
Oh,
Yeah, I think there should be like 4.
I gave her one.
Everyone,
Yeah,
I think we're good.
I'll just leave the extra ones over here.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. So my name is Lou Lopes. I'm the superintendent over at Southeastern. I've been there for 11 years now, maybe 12. I lose track. But so I thought tonight I'll kind of go go over the budget. Just in the interest of time, I'll kind of go through it rather quickly. But anything that you want me to expand on, I got all the detail stuff. So if you want to really get into it, we can as well. The first page is really a summary page of the district-wide budget. As you know, Southeastern, we're made up of 9 communities. Our total budget for FY19 is up, and you kind of see that on the bottom, is up 3% from the current year.
26 million. 26 million?
Just 27,224,832.
Okay. That's the whole town of West Bridgewater budget?
Was it what?
Isn't that the whole town of West Bridgewater budget?
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, we actually have 1,500 students, and West Bridgewater has 1,100 K-12. We're actually bigger than the entire West Bridgewater school system. I was just looking at that before. I was surprised. So we're once again, our budget is made up of basically the amount of aid that we get from the state and the required minimum contribution we get from the communities. For at least 11 years now, we haven't asked for any more. We've been able to operate at net school spending. So that's kind of our operating budget. And then you see beyond that is transportation being.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you for a second? You said that you haven't come forward asking for money, but I thought you did a couple of years ago and the towns voted it
Additional.
Yeah,
down.
the towns voted it down. We did.
No.
that.
Yeah, because
We-
we wanted to
we-
set up a.
Stabilization account.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but we weren't asking for money. We're just asking to vote to establish a stabilization account.
Oh, okay.
We weren't asking for any money. Yep.
Not yet, right, okay.
Yeah. It actually passed. We actually have a stabilization account because we needed 6, and we had 6. So.
Oh, okay.
But we haven't asked for any money
Okay.
from the towns. Our hope is to build up our E&D and start to put money aside from E&D so that if we have a capital need, we do not have to go ask the towns for an override or a debt exclusion or anything like that.
All
So-
right, thank you,
so,
sorry for the
yeah.
interruption.
So that's just kind of an aside. So you don't see that this year. We're hoping next year we might, and so we would have to disclose that here if we did that. But our intent is not to ask for capital assessments for stabilization. Transportation, the cost for transportation for the approximately 1,500 students is $1.5 million. Under state law, the communities, we're not allowed to charge for transportation. The communities are supposed to be reimbursed the cost of transportation, subject to appropriation. About 7 years ago, they were up as high as 95% reimbursement to the communities. They went down to 29%. They're back up around 57 to 62%. We're not really sure what it's going to be. It's level funded for this year, the reimbursement. The issue is there's more regional charter schools get part of that money, so the total, the amount of the pie is the same, but the total number of people is more. So as a result, communities get a little bit less aid. What we do is any amount of transportation aid that we get, 100% of it goes right back to the communities. Okay. So and you'll see further on, I can show you what the cost is per community for transportation. The other capital assessment you see there, $362,950. That's the bond payment for the $34 million renovation project we did on the school about 5 years ago completed. And you can see that as promised, we're paying that out of our adult ed receipts, the $170,950, and then the $192,000 is the amount that's been capital assessed to the communities for at least 20 years. So we vowed to keep that and not go up on that, so that communities wouldn't have to shell out extra for the renovation project. Under there is just things that we need to disclose. There is some ESCO payments. We did a energy conservation project about 8 years ago now, maybe 9 years ago. That's the payments on that. After 3 years, it has to come outside of the budget and falls outside the operating budget under law, and we have to disclose that. So that's what that is. And then payment in the Chapter 40, Section 13D. Those are vacation and sick day buyback benefits. There's an account that is a reserve account. The good news is, you see, it's $25,000 for the entire district. the good news about that is it's fully funded at this point. So we're able to, because we have a very modest buyback provision. So it's not a lot of money. But so that's our budget. On the second page, when we start breaking down the communities, as I mentioned, we have just over 1,500 students. Our enrollment actually has stayed pretty much the same. It's down one student from the previous year. West Bridgewater is 47 students, down 4 students from the previous year, and this makes up 3.1% of the enrollment of the 1,507 students. Okay, so what that means is that 3.1% is what West Bridgewater pays as a percentage for transportation and those kinds of things. So you
What
just
happened
pay.
to Stoughton?
Huh?
What happened to Stoughton?
So Stoughton is an interesting thing. So Stoughton, if you look at Stoughton back in FY 15, I forgot my glasses, so I'm going to stand back like this.
I feel your pain.
We usually get about 70 applicants, 75 applicants to anywhere between 70 to 80 or 90 applicants from Stoughton. For some reason in late 14 or 15, we were getting like 150, 160 applicants. There was something that happened with I think it had to do with they weren't sure if they were going to build a school or not, and there was some. So there was a 2-year period where we got a huge bubble of freshmen and then sophomores, and those students kind of graduated 2 years ago. So you can see that they're back down to 111, which is about where it used to be. If you go back to look at FY 10, 11, 12, 13, even 14, right around the 100 mark, that was that bubble that had to work through. So that's why they're seeing that kind of anomaly there. Great question. The next page just kind of breaks down the different sections of the budget. Net school spending requirements, that's set by Department of Ed. That's up 2.6%. Requirement of contribution is up 2.2%. The transportation, that 25.2, that's really because of the lack of reimbursement by the state. Okay, it's $102,000 or 100 roughly net increase because that's the amount of transportation that the state hasn't given the communities. And we also have a little bit of a bump there because we have a new contract for our town runs. We don't have enough buses or drivers, so we had to contract out with Lucini for all we call them our town runs, our non-Brockton runs, basically are all through Lucini now.
That was on time?
So we haven't had much of a problem. I won't read into that, but it's been pretty good for us so far. Maybe because they want our business, I don't know. So we saw that there's a 1-year kind of issue there. So again, our total budget's up 3%, and our enrollment has stayed about the same. The next page, I'll just go right down to the very bottom on the right. West Bridgewater's assessment for FY19 is $555,428. The very bottom on the right, FY19 assessment, it's down $22,744 from the current year.
I would have expected to see it down more. If we lost 4
Yeah.
students.
Yeah, I'll explain that in the other. Yeah, I'll explain that in the. I got a breakdown that just for West Bridgewater, I think. So
You knew we were
try to
tough,
explain
huh?
that, huh? That's
You
fine.
knew
No, those are great questions. I mean, that's what I'm here for. So the next page this is something that communities have asked for. Why do some towns pay so much per pupil, other towns pay a different amount, and so forth. So we started to include this last year, and I think it's been helpful. What you see in terms of Southeastern, we get the same amount per pupil, per student, whether they come from Brockton or West Bridgewater or Sharon or whatever. The difference is that part in the red, which is the amount of state aid. And you can see, for example, Brockton gets 77% state aid, and West Bridgewater only gets 32% state aid. So that's why you see that the total amount that we get, is the same. So from my standpoint or our standpoint, it doesn't matter where the student comes from, we get the same amount of money. It's just the amount of aid that the community gets. So you guys get a lot less aid. And I can give you a little insight in what that is. You also see in there, again, the transportation costs, the things that the school committee has control over. Those other costs, those $342 per student and the $388, that's really the only thing that the school committee has any say over, because those bottom two, the net school spending and state aid, is required. And then the other ones, the 342 is really just the that 192,000, those other things that I disclosed in the beginning. So we don't ask for anything over net school spending. So I mentioned that the total cost for transportation, net cost, is $338 a student for the whole year. And that's before and after. And like I said, in the law, we cannot charge a fee for that. Any questions on this page? No? Okay, so this is the page that I said that kind of breaks down, and I'll kind of get into why even though the enrollment is down 7.8%, the assessment is only down 4.1%. And I don't know if you see that. So if you see the assessment's down 22,744, which reflects a 4.1% decrease. The enrollment is down 7.8%. And so there's a couple of reasons for that. Obviously, the student enrollment, so if you go down to the bottom, kind of factors affecting assessment, student enrollment is the red arrow going down means the fact that the enrollment went down means the assessment's going to go down. Enrollment as a percentage of community, we went from 7.48 to 6.85, so that'll reduce a little bit. Enrollment as a percentage of the district went down, not much, 3.07, 3.12. What that means is you pay less of a percentage for those other costs, right? But very small. The big thing is your municipal growth, 7.52. That's almost 3 times the state average. So what that means is it's great if you own property in West Bridgewater. That means that your property values have been doing extremely well in the property values, and it shows some great things about. I think the only one of those communities that are higher, I think Foxborough has a higher one. They're like 8, but most of them, some of the towns of the 9 towns that I go to, they're in the 2 to 4% range. So
What is municipal revenue growth factor? What
So
does that- what does that mean?
municipal
Where does that come
revenue
from?
growth factor is made up of 2 main things. There's actually a bunch of them, but it's based on your equalized property values. I'll go into, if you go to the, next to the last page, it looks like this. Okay.
What does it say
It
at the
says
top?
West Bridgewater on the top,
Yeah,
city and town total.
chapter 70? Is that it?
Yeah, that's the one. So it's based on, in this case, it's based on they're 2 years behind, so it's based on your 2016 property values. Okay, so that's that 1,101,000,000 number. They take a percentage of that and they say, okay, and then they look at the 2015 resident income amount, and based on that, they generate they generate the growth factor. They look at the previous years and so forth.
This is
So
they is the Office of School
this is Department of
Finance?
Revenue.
Department of Revenue.
Department of Revenue. So it's based on your cherry sheets
Okay.
from your town. Yeah. It's not based.
It says elementary and secondary education here, so it's
So the way this works is they look at how much, they use this formula, and the formula is the same for all 351 communities. They say that for the town of Bridgewater, line number 7, based on your property values and the income of the residents, you should be able to generate $7,591,897 for education. Okay?
Southeast Regional?
No.
Just in
For
total
all,
education.
for all, you have 1,100 students, school-age students that reside in West Bridgewater, whether they're in pre-K, whether they in high school at West Bridgewater, or whether they're at Southeastern.
Okay.
Okay?
That's how you get your cost per student.
So, right, so they say, okay, you can afford $7,591,000. And then what they do is they look at, and there's a factor for if you're a half-day pre-K or a half-day kindergarten or a full-day kindergarten. There's a different cost associated to an elementary, middle school, high school, vocational school. So they look at all those students lie on that and come up with a number. And he said the total cost to educate all the students in West Bridgewater is $11,516,998. You can afford $7,591,000, so the state's going to give you the difference. Okay, so it's counterintuitive because let's assume for some reason you had nothing changed, but you had 100 more students, okay, that moved into the town, but your property value stayed the same, your income percentage stayed the same. What would happen is number 7 wouldn't change, but number 8 would be increased by maybe $1 million. What that would mean is you would still pay the same. The state would make up the difference.
Does the
So-
state really make up that difference?
They do, and so that's why it's a little counterintuitive, because if you want to reduce your per pupil costs, have more kids. The more students
well,
that
that makes
reside in the community. So one
makes
of the
sense.
things that is negatively impacting West Bridgewater, why percentage-wise you pay it so much per pupil, is there's only 1,100 school-age children in West Bridgewater. Now, I'm oversimplifying a
Right,
lot,
right,
but
right.
that's really what it comes down to, which is why you see some communities that you may say, well, Jesus, I apologize, that's I don't know what that is.
So we don't get that, we don't get $4 million from the state for the schools?
No, you're getting,
Or is that between the schools, is that between the public school and Southeast Regional, or is that just?
yeah, so you are getting that. In fact, if you look at the previous page, I actually,
I didn't think
these
the
pages are all
cherry sheet said that
Department of
much,
Ed
but I don't
pages.
really remember.
If you go back 2 pages, you're getting $3,613,624.
Yeah, that's what I thought, 3 million, okay.
684,
choice,
3,684,319.
But-
Right? That's what I got. This is based
that's
on the
the school
governor's
choice
numbers.
too, yeah.
That come out. So you get 3,684,319
Yeah, that's what
in chapter 78.
this is not in that,
Just
right?
chapter 70.
Yes. Yeah, school choice is different, whole different animal.
So this is really the formula that no one understands?
That's the formula.
This is the
That's the formula. And again, unfortunately, I could explain it, but it would be, everyone would be asleep, and I would need another 2 hours. But in a nutshell, that's how it comes down to. It's how much can you afford? What's it gonna cost for all the kids that live here? The state's gonna pay the difference. Now, you can always pay more, right? Well, you can always pay more, right? So if you go back a few pages to your diagram, and most communities pay more, okay? So you can see the minimum is this amount right here, right? West Bridgewater pays this more, because the reality is it costs more to educate kids than the minimum.
That's the graph I remember every year.
Yeah.
After you leave, that's what sticks in my head.
Okay, all right?
Is
So
that-
that's
that's a very important
so what I
picture.
didn't share in there is Southeastern's graph is, we're at net school spending, so we don't,
So what's the solid line?
the what?
Solid line on this chart,
On the top is the actual
Actual.
spending,
actual spending, okay.
yeah. But that is for West Bridgewater, that's not for Southeastern,
Yeah, right.
okay?
And the,
But I'm
and
not
the,
sure
and
why.
the, and this line is the required?
Mid-
Okay,
That's
The minimum.
okay, yeah, that, obviously.
But I
because
can
you
tell you,
just-
I can tell you that other than Brockton, they're all way over. If you look
Yeah,
at,
well,
if
I
you look
mean-
at, if you look at Sharon, for example, they're like 60% over.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that's not, that's not excessive, compared to the other area communities.
Well, on
from
another
what I-
page, it said the combined effort, was supposed to be 7.5 million. That's what we can afford to pay. The rest we can't afford to pay, but we pay it anyway.
Well, no.
Scholarships and.
Based on those revenue sources, you might have other revenue sources. Your commercial tax, might be different, or obviously there's other revenue sources. So that's I wouldn't be privy to any of that. But so that's really it. The last page just shows kind of where West Bridgewater's, how it's divided. In your case, there's no agricultural school, so it's just the two schools, West Bridgewater. Obviously, the majority of the students, K through 12, go there. 1,053, and 47 go to Southeastern.
A
So
lot of good stuff in here.
No one goes to the
Yeah.
agricultural school?
it would show here if they did, but I don't know. Are you part of?
We
They
heard
do.
of one.
Is it? But is it through choice? Maybe.
No,
Oh.
so we don't have one as part of Plymouth County, so they have a choice, they can go to either Bristol or Norfolk, and we currently have two in Norfolk.
Yeah, and you pay quite a bit for those.
We do, and it gets paid out of our local budget, out of our local school budget.
Right, okay. Yeah. So we have an interesting thing where if I have a student that we've never seen, and we usually have 3 or 4, that says through choice goes to, say, Attleboro. And so they go from Norton, they go to Attleboro for school choice. I'm just using that as an example. And in Attleboro, they take a vocational program. We get assessed for that. It comes out of our chapter 78. And I've never even seen the kid. You know, and we mentioned it to Jeff Wilson, and he's like, "Yeah, just pay it. That's the way it is." You know, luckily you only have 2 or 3 kids. You know, and it's not. And he'll joke around sometimes, and it's not Norfolk Aggie because you don't have the huge transportation bill. So yeah, there's some weird things that happen with when the whole choice. It can help you, but it can also hurt you. So the school committee just voted down school choice. We've always voted down because we have 1,000 applicants this year, and we only take 375. So,
Oh, wow.
so
At
it's
Southeastern?
Yeah. So it's
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't
So-
realize it was so competitive.
yeah. So we you know, it doesn't make sense to take students from other communities. We can't
Accept
accept
all
the
the
ones
ones.
from our own
Right.
communities. So yeah.
All right. Well, does anyone have any other questions for Mr. Lopes?
Nope.
All right, Lou, well, thank you very much for coming in. It was good to see
Good
you.
info in here.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Well, enjoy your evening.
Thank you very much.
as well.
It's still cold out there.
Yeah,
It is cold.
It is. Yes.
Oh, they
the
did?
12th.
Okay,
They did, right?
Thank you.
Okay, have a good evening.
two.
All right, the next
Is
one,
he the
Superintendent.
superintendent of?
yeah, of Southeastern.
Okay.
The guy who came before was the business manager?
Mark, yeah.
I didn't know I thought they have a principal, or they call him a superintendent?
I'm sure they have a principal as well. It's kind of like we have
Wow.
Patty, she's the
I know, but it's only
superintendent.
one
We have
school.
Sarah.
They only have
At least
one
she's the
school,
superintendent of,
right?
Well, they have more students than we do.
But just one
Oh, that's
school?
Just one school.
that's true. You do have
Ah, you don't have to be.
Hi, Vic, nice to see you. You
How
look
you doing,
handsome
everybody?
as always. In his pretty boy blues.
The blue, yes, I just came from a little
Meeting.
swearing in, over in Bridgewater, so
Right.
I actually thought I was gonna be late, so it worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right, we're flipping to budget 2,100.
Let me just do like I normally do, we'll look at the
What
mainly
the
increases.
changes- Yeah, what the changes are.
Okay, well, we, unfortunately, and I know for you in the finance committee, this is kind of a bad year, a unusual year.
I don't like when you start
Well,
out
it's
that
not
way.
really bad because it's good and bad because in contractual years past, the sergeants used to go, if they get promoted, you went from wherever you were at patrol to top step sergeant, which I thought was always unfair because you have a 10-year sergeant and you became one, you got top step. So what we did is we created steps for the sergeants. So we created 3 steps, each 2 years apiece. So instead of going from here to here, they gradually worked their way up. But unfortunately, when that happens, now every 2 years, you get an increase, which each step is usually 5%. And then with a 2.5 increase, you get those. So unfortunately, this year, with our department is so young, they're getting steps every year. We have a step 1 through completion of 5, then 10, and then 18, I'm sure. But what happens now is we're hitting year 3, year 4, year 5. So basically, most of my younger guys are getting a 5% step increase plus the contractual 2.5. So we had 12 individuals getting step increases out of 21. So that's
Yeah.
so you can see in permanent salaries, that's the increase basically in permanent salaries between the step increases And I had, here, let me make sure the number right. I think it was 4 individuals increased their education. So that brings up that line too.
So step is one thing, education's another, and then you have the contractual. So it's 3 things combined.
Right,
Okay.
yep.
And step is, again, just automatic, or
Well,
do
you-
you have to accomplish certain things in that?
No, step is year 1, completion, year 2, year 3, year 4, completion of 5. And then, I'm not sure, I gotta get around from me quick. I don't know if it's 8, is there 8 and 10? Completion of 7, then 10.
So just years of service.
Years of service,
Yeah,
yes.
What is the education? For each
Education,
officer?
the education is, if they have an associate's degree, they get a 10% bump, a bachelor's 20, and a master's 25. And it's proven to be the best to have educated people. So, and I've always pushed hard for that. A lot of our officers they came in, they had like business degrees, which they get nothing for. So they went from 0% to getting their master's degree, so they get a 25% bump. So we had a few of those people do some of those, and some of them are increasing, as they go.
Wait a minute, I didn't understand that. If they come in with a business degree, they don't get it, doesn't count.
That
Has to
doesn't
be
count as a
criminal
bachelor's?
Has to be criminal justice.
Okay, and then you said something about getting a master's.
So what happens is they have a bachelor's in business administration, they get nothing, so they go get their master's in CJ.
Gotcha.
Because it's,
And
it's,
that's when they get the 25%
then they get
bump.
25. So we had 4 increases in education in different levels. We had 12 step increases, people doing step increases in the 2.5%. So that brought up permanent salaries up drastically. But if you remember last year, my permanent salaries only went up about $40,000 with their increases. And I've already looked at next year, so you'll be happy to know, next year it goes back to that same levels. So we
so
just
there
happen to hit these steps because after the completion of fund, I get a number of years before this starts, a few starts again. So, like I said, this year is the perfect storm, I guess. Last year was basically
So that
not
was
much of an increase.
shifting around
And next
people.
year, I looked at it already, next year's gonna be a good year. So that,
After, not so good.
well, no, I haven't looked that far in advance, but you never know, because like I said, a lot of my guys are hitting those steps, and then they're all younger, and they're all both the same, 1 or 2 steps behind each other, but once they hit that one, it slows down for a little bit. So that's what the big increase is in permanent salaries, is just because of those items.
What's the other salaries?
Yeah, the
Other
40.
salaries is, it covers all the crossing guards, all the matrons, and the dispatchers. And it's
Looking at the prior years, you haven't come close to spending that.
coming prior years, I don't have that
Yeah,
in
right,
front of me.
16, actual from 2016 was 16 something, and actual from 2017 was 18.9.
And now you're looking for 110.
Now you're looking for 110. We
Well, isn't
approved
this the
70.
first
Yeah, but this is,
Dispatch.
last year was our first year for dispatchers.
Yeah.
So the years prior was just school crossing, and we took back, we stopped a few places that I felt we didn't need school crossing, so that saved some. And matrons and those type of duties, those.
It's on call.
You don't know, it's on call, so you're not exactly sure where it's gonna go. But the true numbers to look at is this year's line for that. And as this year's line, I have it here.
Yeah, because right now, well, as of December, it was 16.9.
As of, and just to clarify, my secretary started to take the dispatchers out of the permanent intermittent line until I caught it. So the permanent intermittent line, you can see, is really in the hole. And part of that, she started, because we call these guys special, so she thought take it out of permanent intermittent. So the permanent intermittent line, some of that money she took, should have been out of other salaries.
Wait.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Intermittent
So
salaries, you see that?
Because it's permanent, and then there's intermittent, and you keep saying permanent.
Permanent,
intermittent, so
I mean,
I'm getting my
they're called
total-
permanent intermittents, that's
Now,
why.
is
So
that
intermittent
something-
salaries,
Is that something that'll get trued up or corrected by the end of the year, or is that something we're gonna have to explain each year that, well,
no,
some of
no,
it-
no, that won't happen again. I just didn't catch it in time, and because when I see the payroll, I just see the numbers, and I didn't catch until I started looking at it. So then I just see that stopped, and then, so she's been taking it out of other salaries and expended. So basically, other salaries right now I have expended 34,500, but that's really not exactly accurate where some of that money, more than half of the permanent committee salaries came out of there. So if you look at 12,000, so I spent about 41,000 this year in other salaries to the state, at
So
least.
the dispatcher will go back into permanent salaries, is that?
The
what-
dispatch is gonna stay in other
Other
salaries.
I was gonna say
salaries.
another, okay.
Yeah, other salaries. And when I came before you last year, I explained that it's really a 4-year process to try to get all the dispatcher programs up and running. And it's already paid huge benefits because our dispatcher program, we have a memorandum of understanding with the union that the dispatcher can stay in the station on his own. Where prior we had that an officer would have to be in the building. So what it is now is instead of having only 2 sometimes on the road or 3, I have 3 or 4 because that officer can leave the station and the
Yes, I
dispatcher can
remember
be
this
there.
conversation.
So basically, we're getting a police officer on the street for dispatcher,
That's good.
salary.
Because the other night when I saw that cop that stopped somebody, I saw another one pull up, I went, does that mean the rest of the town?
Well, that's just it. Growing
Well-
up, it was always, there's 2 cops on.
can
If you
speed
see
up.
one, there's a pretty good chance
And
the other one's not
I think
nearby.
everybody remembers some of the photos I brought from last year showing the differences.
Yes.
The dispatch, but what it does is, it allows, when it gets busy, for the officers to come in, and what happens is, now when somebody comes in the lobby, they call the officer off the road, or if he happens to be in the station doing, the dispatcher does not take reports, he's not a police officer, he doesn't give legal advice.
All right.
So then, if somebody comes in, they can call somebody off the road, So it's worked out really well. And right now, I only cover 6 shifts a week for dispatching. And I want to try to double that for next year, and then hopefully we get the 3rd year. And this is anticipation because we're eventually, whether in my lifetime or not, there's going to be central dispatching. We're going to be forced into it. Either we do it on our own and do it our way, or eventually we're going to be forced into it. And what happens then, if we got forced into dispatching at one point, then you'd have to come up with the entire money in 1 year.
Right.
So I'm working on a grant now, East Bridgewater, and us, we're going to be doing central dispatching from our police department. And all the money to renovate, all the money to bring all the police and fire radios to them. We're doing interactive dispatching, I call it, because when you go into a fire station that used to have a dispatcher, they're going dark, or East Bridgewater, or whoever's going dark, as soon as you walk into the lobby, there'll be a screen there, and you'll interact with the person in dispatch. They'll be able to lock the door behind you. They'll be able to print stuff out to you. So we're trying to get ahead of it a little bit because we don't want to be that person being forced into it. And there will be I can't say there won't be any additional cost, but the cost for our dispatchers will now be shared over 3 towns.
Right.
Okay, and then we still have room to bring others in. So even though our dispatch money might be this, as soon as we start bringing people in, we're not going to need more personnel to do other communities. And I've seen a lot of smaller communities jump onto the Duxbury dispatching, and it's bringing their costs down.
Right, in a small town, that's probably a good solution because, trying to bear all these costs, I mean, we were talking about costs all night, I'm thinking that, sharing some of the.
Well, plus, like I said, it's going to be police and fire, so fire now won't have to do any dispatch, won't have a firefighter on the desk. So we're in the first stages of that. I'm putting in for a grant due May 15th for the study, for the informational technologies part of this, and the radio communications. Those are the 2 big parts that I don't know enough about to get the scope of work, so that when I put my bid specs together for the following year or the year after for the full funding, at least I'll have exactly what we need and the costs, so that
Well, it
they're.
makes perfect sense, because you've got the economy of scale, and every town is not creating their own little thing, so.
But that's my question now. What happens if the other towns say no? Or do we do this just for West Bridgewater? Would it still be a savings if it was just our town for the dispatch?
I personally think that all dispatching should go through us with our dispatchers, police and fire, regardless of whether we end up coordinating with other communities. I think this is going to happen. I know East Bridgewater is 100% behind it. Bridgewater's a little on the shaky side. Their chief still thinks that police officers could do a better job than dispatchers. I personally disagree. I think that whatever personnel you have, if you oversee them and hold them to certain standards, doesn't matter who's there. And so, but they're going to be forced to do this. Whether it's 10 years down the road or what have you, it's coming because 911 doesn't want to put a 911 center in every police department in the Commonwealth. So they're fighting, and there's a lot of money pushing behind it. And when there's a lot of money pushing behind it, it usually happens. So I just want to be out in front of it. So I like the fact that it's going to be in our station. So people coming off of 106, there'll be still people in the building. I think that's important. But we're also making it interactive for the other towns and with this technology that I'm looking into to make it work for everybody. So the permanent salary is like, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. Like I said, next year will be a better year. Last year was a good year. So this is just a bad year, unfortunately. Other salaries, I upped $40,000, and that's not all dispatching. I know I said I wanted $40,000 or $50,000 a year for 4 years. I only budgeted $32,500 increase for dispatching. The other $7,500 is under the contract when a police officer starts his career, he has to pay $2,500 towards the academy. It's a fee. So they take it out of his check. So if you complete 5 years with the West Bridgewater Police Department, they give you that money back. In years past, 15 years ago, we had people coming in and we were just like teaching them and off they'd go. So they brought this in to say, wow, you're going to lose $2,500 if you don't stay for 5 years. I think it's past its, past its usefulness. Yes, and the bad thing is they pay the $2,500 and goes into free cash or wherever it goes, and then has to come out of the budget when they get paid back. So I have 3 individuals next year that will hit their 5th year. So that's $7,500 that I have to repay them each $2,500 back so that increases that line 40,000. So it's already been paid. That $7,500 has already been paid, but unfortunately I have to get back. The overtime accounts I just upped by the raises, just to coordinate with time and a half.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at the personal bereavement. I mean, it's historically, this year, it was $3,300 in December.
Personal bereavement. What do you mean, what was used in December?
Yeah.
Used, and yet,
Year-to-date expenditure for personal bereavement, this is a brand new one that I have, is 7571. So I just got it 2 weeks ago, a week ago, so,
no, I'm glad you have that.
yeah. So year-to-date, right now, personal bereavement is 7,500. But, so personal bereavement is basically people taking personal days that I have to fill. Sometimes I have to fill them, sometimes I don't, depending on the manpower, so that, you hope they take them on certain days, but that's usually historically low at this point because personal days are guaranteed days off. So they usually save those for the end of the year. So they get bumped on a vacation day, they take a personal day, they're guaranteed the day. So people hold them like gold, especially the young kids, because I only allow 4 people off on a day, but personal days are extra. So if there's already 4 on vacation, you can take a personal day and be guaranteed the day off. So a lot of the young ones now, next 3 months, those are like gold. They want the day off, they take the personal day. So that's historically usually,
Okay.
and it will build the next 3 months.
In-service training. That seems like you're over already.
Yeah, and
You're not requesting.
I'm just over now because my in-service is complete. In-service usually starts in October, and I usually try to have it complete by now because I lose a person for the week, and now my overtime vacation starts. So I try to schedule it all this point because now that guy's not at school. So that way, April, May, and June, when people taking time off, I'll have that guy there so I can maybe save some money in vacation. So in-service is pretty much done.
All right, I don't see any other changes on the next page. Service contracts, is that mobile?
Service
phone?
contracts, what we did is I upped that. We have 2, I started what they call Power DMS. It's a software that takes care of all our policy procedures, training, and what it does is we're going for what they call certification. We're going to certification and accreditation.
So is it an HR thing to track?
Well, what it does,
accomplishments
what the best part about it is that individuals can go in, and if they put in code, a search word, use of force, it'll bring up every policy where use of force is named in it, and then they have an issue, they want to review it. So it's got a great search engine in it, but it also keeps all our policies. And in the past, unfortunately, with some lawsuits that we've had, they'll say, well, we want the policy from 2007. Now it's 2016, and it's been written over. No one has it. Well, this system here is the minute I put a new one in, it archives that. So we never lose all of those things. Plus, we do training videos in them. So when we do a training video on something, we also can monitor say you have to have this training video viewed and done by the 15th, and it'll report to us who's seen it, who hasn't seen it. It gives signatures to all these policies, so you can't say, well, I never got it. Yes, you did, because you have electronic signature to everything. So it's basically, it helps a lot in the accreditation process, because the accreditation process is 176 policies that we have to cover, and that's the first stage, and then the accreditation. So, but like I said, those things in the future are going to help us. Hopefully, we don't have any more lawsuits, but it will help us show that these policies are been in effect and they've signed it. And it's a big deal when you start. You have to document everything, and it helps out in the future for any of these issues.
Right.
So the accreditation is like $1,500 a year, and I think they're like $9 something for the software for the Power DMS.
You don't have anything in here for the resource officer that,
I do not. No, there's nothing in there for the school resource officer in this at all.
Do you use scheduling software for figuring all this out with your people and overtime and who's coming and who's going, or do you have to manually kind of do that?
No, well, we have our CAD system, computer-aided dispatch, what they do, brings everybody that's on shift, and they have to do attendance at that point, so it tells you if somebody's on a vacation day, it will tell you personal day, they're out sick, and then that formulates into the administrative side when I do payroll. So you can see exactly, why they were out, what the code is, for overtime, vacation coverage, holiday coverage, personal day coverage.
But in terms of filling,
Well, in terms of filling, I keep a minimum of 3.
yeah.
And right now, knock on wood, we have 4 scheduled on every shift but the midnights and 2 4 to 12s. So we have those, if somebody does call in during the day, I don't fill it. I only fill on Friday, Saturday night, 4 to 12. We have a minimum of 4 on Friday and Saturday nights.
Yeah.
And I've negotiated that the K-9 works from 7 till 3 in the morning. So prime time, not a great shift, but prime time for coverage. So that's worked out really well. So, but like I said, there's two 4 to 12s, and all the midnights only have 3. And the midnight shift does not have any dispatchers on it now, but it does have that overlap 7 to 3. So those nights he's on, there is a 4th man on till 3 a.m. So that helps out the midnight shift a little bit.
Yeah.
So what happens if you need a police officer at 3 o'clock in the morning, if there's no dispatcher?
Well, the police officer.
Well,
would
then
answer.
there's only 2 on the road. So
There's one in the station?
one in the station.
Oh, okay, there's one in the station.
See, I haven't worked the dispatchers
Yeah,
to
sure,
that
sure,
shift yet. So there's one in the station, midnight shift dispatch themselves.
Sure, okay.
Well, everybody but 6 shifts a week dispatch
Yeah,
themselves.
right.
Okay.
And like I said, we're doing dispatches really on the cheap right now. I'm keeping them under 16 hours. And most of them want to be law enforcement, so they're learning. They're getting something from it. We started a program, if they go to the intermittent school on their own, the part-time academy, they come out, they work for us. We see how they fit, and if they do a good job dispatching, they can become a special, but they still have to do their 2 days a week. And then they can do a detail here and there to subsidize, that. So we're getting something finally from our specials where before we got nothing from them. They have to do 2 days a week on the desk.
You finding your calls over the last year up?
Our calls just from last year to this year up 10%. We had almost just under 12,000 calls.
Police officers carry Narcan?
There's what?
The police officers carry Narcan?
Yes,
Do you
Wow.
carry that in your budget?
How much is that, chief?
about $40 a dose.
Is the
We
theory
are
that the-
fortunate.
It went up to 71.
Well, it did. Well, then the state stepped in because they were gouging. That happened about a year ago. The state stepped in and lowered it. We're a little lucky. We have a great relationship with the fire department, and when usually if we use one, they'll when they transport, they'll swap it out and give us another one. So.
First of all, I have two questions. Does the person you used it on, do they have any obligation to theoretically reimburse? No, okay, they should, because it was their life that we saved. And,
To insurance, if they have insurance?
We're not a medical facility, so we can't bill it.
and the second question is, where, is that in your budget someplace? I'm just curious where.
Well, it'll just be under supplies.
Okay.
So it's under
Okay.
miscellaneous supplies or.
Yeah, you were
And like I
saying-
said, we're this is being videotaped, so I won't go any further with it.
Yeah, I know. I know.
But I'll bet
you
your
did
calls
say-
using Narcan are up.
We've Narcan individuals 2 and 3 times in 24 hours.
Yeah,
So it's
sure.
the same individuals.
Yeah, I'm sure,
So
I'm
it's-
sure.
it's like-
It's
It's
sad on a lot of different levels.
but we are, the good thing is we're part of the Plymouth County Outreach in EV Hope, and we do follow-ups to try to get them assistance that, to get them to move forward. But we carry the AEDs, we carry the Narcan, and I'm not sure, we saved, 2 of our guys saved, somebody had a heart attack at a accident, just happened to be walking around and went down. So these type of equipment that we carry, and we just started carrying AEDs, I bought them, I think, 2 years ago.
That's great. Yeah.
So, and they're not cheap either.
Yeah, they're not, because we have one at work, and we also had to take CPR training, and
Now, you said I'm sorry, that the phone calls were up 10%?
The calls for service are up
Would you-
10%. Last year's calls for service, I think, were just, well, I'll give you a little, 2008, I went down to 2008 because that's when the new system started. We had 9,800 calls, 16, 10-4, 17, 11-9-5. So almost 12,000 in 2017.
And what types, are they just all varies, or is there any pattern or trend, or?
No, I mean, they're all, I mean, the trend is getting busier, but there's no, I mean, unfortunately, last year we had a murder. I mean, we haven't had one of those in a long time. I mean, so the guys are very busy. And I keep telling everybody, says, oh, you gotta try to cut your budget, you gotta try to cut your budget. I think we do a great job of the budget that we do. But we're still, and I already said, I said, well, 1997, I had an extra guy. I had 22 in 1997. I have 21 today. Okay, so let's just do 20 years times
and the town is
$50,000 is $1 million savings already.
Right.
And we're behind men. We really
Right.
need to start building on it.
Yep.
And to tell you the truth, before I figured out this budget, I was coming in for additional person and money for additional supervisor, because I am a firm believer we need a supervisor on every shift at all times. It doesn't make any sense to me why on Thursday night I don't need a sergeant, but I need one on Saturday. So we got to get to that point with the way things are with litigation and responsibilities. But because of the perfect storm, I didn't ask for those because I thought that would look really incredibly.
Yeah, we wouldn't be this nice.
So, I
Well,
mean.
it comes down to that.
But-
it comes down to
But that is my moving forward. I mean, we've done a lot to try to get more police on the street already, thinking out of the box, trying to do creative things. But
My
this,
networking group references the police department in West Bridgewater all the time, and they had no idea that I had a relationship here because of the amazing things that your department's doing. So there's been a lot of talk in the community of how good.
well, we've
And
been,
they're still spending a lot of time at the schools, right?
well, we've been, yeah, and we've been asked to try to do even more at the schools and do more. And basically, and I've said to David and I've said to Patty, I said, we can't. We're at the point where we just can't do anymore. It's beyond that point. I've shrunk, 2 or 3 jobs into 1.5 guys, and one guy, he's doing more and more. And we just it's at the point we just can't do it anymore. I mean, 1997, 22, 2018, we have 21. Lots changed since 1997, I'll tell you that. So
Kidding.
we really need to look at that, but hopefully next year, like I said, is a better year and we should be in a better place.
Now, I know you're talking about the dispatch, but what sort of infrastructure needs do you see your department needing in the next 3 years?
Well, to tell you the truth, I know I've talked with the fire chief to do like a metal space building. He has more equipment outside than anybody I've ever seen. And during snow and all this stuff, I store our motorcycles out back here because we want to try to keep the bays open, keep the cars in them. So like a metal space building a basic metal space building, nothing fancy, where the garage doors are high enough to be able to bring equipment in and out of it is probably something we need to look at. As far as the building itself, our building, we keep it up. I'm a real stickler on how our place looks, and I feel it looks the same way it is in 2008 when we built it. So I do a little bit of painting every year. We replace some windows, different things every year that I don't wait for, let them all go and then come and say I need 50. So we try to I replaced a couple garage doors. Unfortunately, we had a malfunction. I didn't come here. We had enough to work in the budget to be able to get it done. As you can see, I'm a real stickler on sick time. I don't like sick time. We're underfunded in a lot of training, but I use that money that they don't kill me in sick time in other areas that benefit them. So
Good trade-off.
well, like I said to them, if you're sick, don't come in.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody sick to
Nobody
come in
wants
because
it,
they get very sick.
I get everybody, right.
But
If you're not
if you're not sick, you're coming to work because it's very expensive to fill that shift on overtime. And I think it's money better spent in training because better trained officers just make us all look better. And so instead of throwing $500 out the window just because you called in sick, so it's
Just,
worked
you
out
know,
pretty well.
I can see my staff, who are, some of them are, it's just not skilled labor calling in sick because they feel like, they were hungover or whatever, they want to go to the beach. I just don't see police officers doing that. Maybe I'm naive. I just
Yeah,
don't.
yeah. They're not doing it anymore.
Well, they have to be smart enough to know that if you're spending money on their education, it's only gonna forward them in their goals and their aspirations.
Well, everybody says, oh, the department is run, it's some nice guys are doing this, and I had somebody approach me last night on a call that they went into and how professional they were. Well, yeah, they are professional because that's what we expect of them, number one. And number two is we keep them involved. We keep them looking at different things. We've given them other training. And more training in good schools,
Very important.
it's huge. I mean, and we go to real good training. I don't usually send them to something that I haven't already personally seen or I have faith in others that have been there because it's very expensive to send them there. So you want a good training, So they get good training and it's beneficial to all of us because of it. But those are the really only two areas, and so really the only real increase that I'm asking for is 32.5 for the dispatch program. I mean, over and above contractual issues.
All right, does anyone have any other questions for the chief?
When we were doing the committees, Maura,
CapEx.
is that her name? Maura? Don Clark was the chief. We went to the fire department, and he gave us a tour. That was very interesting. It was really cool. Cells, and he showed us where they lock.
Oh, they just did this with the Girl Scouts.
We just did we had a 100th anniversary. You can see,
Daughter's
Yeah.
there.
we got the original badge from 100 years ago made. We're gonna wear these till the 31st of December
Oh,
to
neat.
commemorate the 100th year. We had a lot of people come through,
Yeah,
and we
very
have a lot of photos, through the second floor, throughout the building, a lot of historical photos. So, we had every individual one there, and the other one was out of state, but to take the photo for the 100th year. So that'll be hanging up on the walls forever, so.
Oh, that's nice.
So we had a lot of guys, they came in and did tours and talked with everybody, and it was good.
Great.
That's fantastic.
Still doing the texting stings.
We're still doing texting. We'll be doing another large one this month for everybody that's watching.
Which day
I'm not
should I
hiding
go
it.
down 106?
We'll be doing another one this month. We have grant for that. I was invited down to Rhode Island Summit on distracted driving. I was down there on Tuesday. to do a presentation on that.
It's quite unfortunate it's such a success. I wish you didn't catch anybody.
Well, we're
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to stop it, but we're well known. We're well known.
Yes.
You advertise it and you
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, I have spoken a few times on it, and in this one, I changed my PowerPoint, and I basically said, because big time was about education, educate people on the dangers. Well, we've been doing this since 2013, it's 2018, everybody knows the dangers. So we no longer will, we used to do the dangers, every month, every day, and then tell you where it's gonna be. Everybody knows it's dangerous, we just need to drive. I did a public service announcement, which Executive Office of Public Safety is going to use for the April distracted driving months. So we've gave everybody the opportunity to know the dangers. You know the dangers now. It's just enforcement. Unfortunately, I'm a real stickler. It's we all know what it is. We all know the
It's
dangers of it.
addictive. People can't stop.
I don't have the answer. I don't understand it.
You can't give people common sense.
You're so right.
Thing goes bzzz.
Yeah, I know.
What was that?
Oh, what did I miss?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
Unfortunately,
now
it's
I
that way with email and everything else.
Right.
I like the days when Friday you left for work and you didn't get emails till
5 o'clock, and you
Monday.
didn't think about it. Right.
Yeah.
People don't unplug.
Yeah, there's no unplugging. Yeah, you're exactly right. So, but like I said, next year I'll sit here and it'll be a much better year. I will then
I'm gonna
ask for a
quote you
little
on
more, but we'll work it out.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Do you want to just go over the K-9 one or?
Oh, there's more?
There's more, but wait, there's more.
No, the K-9 budget.
Yeah,
It's the
K9.
second budget. Sure. It's 2920.
Yeah, I apologize, it's not on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
You're
But
right.
There it is.
there's no changes to it. I just so you're aware.
See,
I
yeah.
think we're on the second year of the bid we put out.
Yeah.
We put out the kennel, and basically, some, I'm missing the word here, some assistance from them. So they come out and assist our K-9, which is a sergeant, our, K-9 control officer, so they come out, we do the inspections, but they just basically come out on a fee. And we pay per dog, per stay, and unless the dog's not picked up, that money comes back to us within fines. So even though, say our budget, we spend 4,000, I would say 2,000 of it comes back to the town in lieu of payment for the loose dog, the kennel fees and what have you.
So this isn't canine officers, this is dogs that you.
Yeah.
Right.
This is, we only do, it's called animal control, canine, but,
Dogs run amok.
Like that.
but,
What's your care of dogs up to? Because it was $1,000 at the end of December.
I wonder if I have that, I don't know if I have that right in front of me, the dogs.
Right.
The dogs, we guarantee, under the bid, we guarantee 100 kennel stays, so 100, so that, for the bid. So if we only use 62, we are still obligated to
Pay
pay
for
them for the
100.
38. We pay for
Okay.
100.
All right.
So I'm not sure where we're at this year with, they could be,
So do we have to pay that $6,000 regard?
no, you don't have to pay 6,000, but we'll have to pay, I think I pay $22 a night. So $2,200 is fixed,
Okay.
Okay.
okay? But, like I said, if 80 dogs spend, a night in there, or 100 dogs spend a night in there, we don't pay any more than 100 unless they're there, but they've already got their guarantee. And then, obviously, whoever picks up the dog, they get charged for the call-out fee. So the $65 call-out fee, which is contractual, plus the $22. We don't fine a lot of people. We could fine them, we don't. We just get the money that it cost us to keep them there. But we also do is we have a kennel at the station. We usually bring them there first, and then give a little time to try to find somebody that happened to be at work and the dog broke the leash. We try to find out who the owners are. If not, then But unfortunately, I think a lot of people know that West Bridgewater cares about their animals and drop some dogs here, and knowing that we're going to pick them up and find them. a home. And what we do here too is that, after, we're only responsible for 10 days. After 10 days, the dog is either euthanized or put into a
Oh, maybe like an adoption program?
adoption program, and they're very good. They don't have the blue, they used to have Blue Dog there, was there, they don't have that anymore. But we're responsible for the money to put them down. So what I did with them to push them to, and I didn't have to push hard, but to get them into adoption age, we give the money regardless. So I think it was $150 to do euthanasia. I give that as a fee to the adoption agency, because, so that way, that money's used to adopt the dog out.
And you guys scan them for chips or whatever?
Oh, yeah, they do all that. They scan above chips. So that gives a little incentive and helps the adoption, because they're all nonprofit, so, and then we place most of the dogs.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, does anyone have any other questions on this budget? Are there any other budgets?
No, there's no
Okay.
more budgets.
So now we can kick you out?
Thank you.
I mean,
very, very
thank you for
much.
coming.
All right, have a great night.
Thanks, Nick. This was supposed to be an early night. What are we doing?
Never an early night during budget
We can
season.
go pretty quick with the other.
Yeah, with the rest of it.
All right. So the
So the
moderator.
first thing we're gonna talk about is a fund transfer request. We are looking to transfer,
Yeah,
how much
for the-
money was it? This is for the electricity for the streetlights. As you know, the town.
$8,500?
Yeah, the town's grown. And
We
they,
do this every year.
right, and that's why in the budget, they increased it $10,000, so that we hopefully won't have to do this transfer every year. But does anyone have any questions?
So have we added lights, or? It's
No,
just-
we're paying for the
Street lights.
electricity.
There's more streets, so there's more lights that are lit.
It's for the
the town's
electricity,
grown.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know if we had more lights.
Happened to all that solar stuff that we had.
Well, but the solar helped.
Yeah.
Because if
I'm
you
only
go
thinking-
back, you'll see that we used to budget 60, we've always budgeted 67.7 since I've been here. And the first year we spent 63 because we had the solar credits. But then two things happen, is that one, obviously National Grid's rates go up. So even though we get a little bit of a discount off a higher rate, and then you've had growth. And as we've continuously said, the growth has been fantastic, but with more growth, you have more streetlights.
Yep, more services.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion on this transfer request?
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer request for the street lighting
For $8,500,
for
is there,
$8,500.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, say aye.
No,
Any opposed? So moved, so there are 6 of us.
sorry, where's this coming from?
Our budget.
Oh, it's coming from our
FinCom
reserves.
reserve.
For 8,000, I don't have the original, it's a photocopy, is that okay, that I'm signing?
Probably not. I'll have to find out where the original is.
All right, text me tomorrow, I can swing by if you need me to. But let me fill it out, so we agreed 8,500, signed. All right, I think the next thing is the minutes, has everyone had a chance to review
Look at that
those?
font. Who did that? That's so nice.
That's not my fault.
Oh,
Oh, maybe it is.
So tonight you just accept for review, which means that you,
okay.
Oh,
and
you're right.
and then next time you would actually approve.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion to accept for review the meeting minutes of the 8th and the 15th? Second? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved, so we've accepted those minutes to review. We went, oh, and the budgets. All right, let's go on to moderator. Sorry, we're at 11:40.
So 1140, it's a small budget, obviously it pays for the town moderator, it's $588, so it's level funded year over year.
Does he get paid that?
He gets paid, I don't have, I'm not gonna look it up, he doesn't get paid the full 588.
No, the
I think it's
380.
I
It must
think
be
it's
the
388.
338.
Then he has $200 or so for supplies if he needs it.
Oh, okay.
No raise.
No, we don't normally give, there's not usually an increase of salary for that.
Any questions? All right, let's move on to insurances.
So insurances, I budgeted a 7% increase, because that's what it came in at. Well, it's a couple of things I will say is this. All told, our value in town is in excess of $100 million. And so it's costing us $300,000 to protect $100 million of assets. It's really not that expensive. Now, it is a 7% increase year over year. I am actually negotiating with a couple of other insurance companies right now, because if I can get it a little bit cheaper, we'll see what we can do. However, there are some services that this agency provides, so it can't be $200 cheaper in order to transfer. But the other item is that we have claims. You know, we just have had claims. I mean, we've had some claims with our buildings. We've had some claims with cars. You know, things happen. I can't tell you exactly what, but when you have 21 officers on cars and ambulance trucks and fire trucks and plow trucks and water vehicles, they're driving a lot of miles through the course of a year. Things happen. Fortunately, they're not big accidents, but you know, if they're an accident here or there, which we've had, claims is going to increase it. So my personal opinion is that, and remember, that's also protecting our buildings, not just our cars. It's also all of our,
The new school, the town
it
hall.
includes the school, and it also includes all public officials. So when a public official makes a mistake, that's part of the insurance as well.
Errors and omissions.
Exactly. Yep. So,
Well, how
so
does that work with the ethical violations? Does it cover that too?
no, because those are personal issues. Those,
Oh.
that's not covered. But, you know, for example, the town mechanic, you know, doesn't put the tires on right, or doesn't put the lug nuts on tight. I mean, you know, there's insurance to cover that in case somebody were to sue him personally for it. So, again, when I look at it and I say $100 million worth of equipment and buildings to spend $300,000, if we could get that same percentage on our personal homes, we'd all spend peanuts. So I just personally think that we're doing a pretty good job with it, and we have a very good agent, and we have a very good company.
Where's disability come under, Dave? Not,
Yep. So the disability will come under our benefits budget.
okay.
The next one is sealer of weights and measures. That's about $5,800. We're level funding that year over year. And I don't see any increases on that one.
Right. He does all the scales.
That's correct.
And yes.
And we get, he gets fees from Market Basket and Trukey's and all those places he does.
He does, and I will tell you, that's a really tough position to continue to fill. You have to be licensed.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, if you said, hey, I can read a scale, can I get the job? I can't give it to you.
Hey, if it's a June to November, I'll do it when I retire.
Well, I will tell you this, here's what's great about that position. You're on your own to do it whenever you want to.
There we go.
So maybe, who knows, in a couple of years. But yeah,
Could be
you do
the
have to
sealer
get
of weights and
certified.
measures.
But when you go to the gas station, how do you know that you're really pumping 18.25 gallons?
You don't.
Except you do.
Except for till you
Because-
see that seal on
Yeah,
there.
right, right.
So if you go down in Cumberland Farms, you'll see it says David Moore.
Right.
Because that's who's doing it. So he has to go to every single tank. He does every single gas tank. I think that's every 2 years. But he does every single gas tank in town. And then, like you said, he goes to Market Basket and Trukey's, so he can make sure that the bananas that say it's 1.3 pounds is really 1.3 pounds. And he has to do every single one.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a little bit, it's a lot of work for $5,000 a
Yeah.
year. So the only benefit is that obviously he picks and chooses his own hours to do it. But
I
because,
thought you'd say he gets free bananas.
but for,
This existed.
but for $5,000 a year, it's hard because somebody has to be licensed, and it's really, it is a tedious job.
Yeah.
You know, so, anyway, but that's level funded year over year. Next budget is Historical Commission, that's level funded. It's $1,750 year over year. He doesn't spend a lot of it. Quite frankly, I've been working on a project with him. I want to put up historical pictures up and down the hallways in the town hall.
Nice.
And it was a project that I had Mallory working on, and when Mallory left, and I have somebody new, you know, part of the nice thing that we always talk about, like you look at the Board of Selectmen's budget, it's down year over year. So everybody's happy about that. We brought in somebody else, it's less expensive, but, you know, you lose the ability to be able to do some more sophisticated stuff.
Yeah.
Because this isn't disparaging when you're brand new and you don't, never done it before. We're just doing the bare basics at this point.
Right.
So Chris has to get up to speed, which she will. We'll provide the training, which requires more time and energy. But then from there, then you could start to branch off and do some other projects. And the last one, which is 9,100, that's up somewhere around 7.5%. To answer your question, Mo, if you look at that first line, I'm not looking at it
I
off the
see
top
it,
of my
yeah.
head. That's Maya, that's workers' comp. We have had some claims. You know, we've, you should 9,100?
Stops at 8,200.
Oh, it's out of order. Keep
Oh, is
going.
it?
Yeah, look at your, it's the second, I think it's like
Next
second
to
to
the
last, third to last.
Oh.
It's out of order.
Yeah, I got it.
So
Sorry.
we have had some claims, you know. We've had one one firefighter that's been out for most of the year
wow.
on a claim, another one that's been out for about 4 months. And so we've had some claims. So again, that's up about 7%. The other two drivers in that budget is our retirement, which is
Yeah,
up 8%.
Yeah, I
But
see
again,
that.
as I try to explain every single year, is that this will be up 8% every year until 2033.
Right.
Oh,
We went
yeah,
through
yeah.
pension reform in Massachusetts because everybody was underfunded. I tell people this all the time because you know, I'm a little bit sensitive to it because I paid Social Security all my life like everybody else did. But then when I came over, I don't pay 6% in Social Security anymore because I'm part of the pension system, but I pay 11%. There's no town match. In the private sector, you pay 6 and the employer pays 6. There's no town match. They budget according to what we're being charged to the county. So the point is that right now at 11%, we are self-funding. So the expectation is that anybody that came in after went to the 9 plus 2% is that after 2033, all you're gonna see in that line is administrative expense, which will probably be hundreds of thousands of dollars instead of millions of dollars. However, people who have retired, and for example, you know, you referred to the Chief Clark earlier. Chief Clark started in 1986. So he was probably at about a 7% payout, or maybe even probably a 7% payout. So that is part of what you're paying for. You look at someone like.
It was not funded properly.
It wasn't
then.
funded.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. that's why they don't have
You look at
pensions
Chief
anymore.
Hunt. Chief Hunt started in 1972. I know at one time it was at 3%. I don't know if that's where he was at, but if he was obviously underfunded. So what they did under pension reform is they said, okay, the town is going to kick in a whole bunch of money on an annual basis. We kick in now at 11%, and then by 2033, that is supposed to be flat. And so hopefully after that, they start drawing some surpluses, assuming that everybody did their actuarial tables right. And they get the returns they expect. In any event, so you'll see that at 8% year over year. And the other driver is obviously health insurance. We're budgeting 7% or 7.5%.
Yeah.
Again, not a huge number. The last 2 years was at 16%. The year before that, it was at 5%. Again, that's claims driven. And I say this to people all the time. If you can name anyone that you know that is not on a prescription drug, then you don't have a friend. Because everybody's on a prescription drug. I mean, everybody's, it is what it is. And so that's obviously a driver. This past year, our claims were relatively lower in comparison to the previous 2 years.
But this is split over the county, right? We're part of it.
Not Plymouth County, but we are part of 19 communities. So obviously there are some other communities that have higher claims, some that are lower. And, you know, you run that risk by not self-insuring. But
It's not self-insured.
No.
Well, it is self-insured.
the
but
group is.
Through the group.
Right, the group
right.
is self-insured.
Yeah.
But if
But
we were,
they base it on the age and all the
Yeah. Well, that's the
demography
experience
of the group.
rated,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know, and if you have a status self-insurance, then what you're doing is you're making some projections. Now we have real data. So, you know, we had claims. I mean, again, you have people that they're living longer but again, a lot of people are experiencing double-digit increases. We have, this year we're not. That's a benefit. You know, it's not something we can control. Everything else is basically flat. And the only other line was, I did go up on the unemployment, because you'll recall, Meredith, you'll recall this from my
Yeah.
first year, and
Because I
Jerry, you
had
will as
said
well.
against it.
Yeah, it used to be $7,500, because quite frankly, as a municipality, we don't normally terminate a lot of people. We've had a couple of terminations over the last couple of years. And I said at the time, it's gonna be a matter of time before we do. We have 252 employees through town. If you could tell me that any other organization is 250 and on an annual basis, you don't terminate at least one, you probably don't have the right information.
We just terminated somebody and our liability for unemployment is $15,000 and that's just for one person.
Yeah, so we don't pay any liability. Municipalities are exempt. So we just actually pay the bill.
You actually pay the bill.
Correct.
Okay,
So,
that's what so you're budgeting $20,000 for somebody's unemployment.
correct.
So you can afford about one person.
Correct. So that's why years ago I came to this committee and I said, you're at 7,500. You're looking at trouble. So every year, I've just
Yeah.
added a couple of $1,000, knowing that I don't want to take a hit in one year. It wasn't, I remember somebody said, okay, who are you planning on terminating? I said, that's not the goal. But, we have to be fiscally prudent.
So this goes into a fund?
Nope,
So it's just for this year?
just for this
And if it
year.
doesn't get used, it goes back into the town?
Drops to free cash. If it gets used, then obviously it gets used.
Yeah, well,
You know,
well, you can
And I
afford about
can,
one person.
I'm not gonna go into more, but this year, it'll be used. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
So that's it, and again, it's
What's the contribution that the employees pay? Is it varied based?
for health insurance,
Yeah.
yep. So on a individual plan, the town is on 75/25, and on a family plan, it is on 65/35.
An individual plan is what?
75/25.
Okay, so the town pays 75%? Okay. That's what we
And
pay.
I will tell you this, and I'm a little off the top of my head on this, but about 90% of our employees are family.
I'm sure.
There's very few
I'm
that
sure.
that are single.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
And
So-
do a lot of them waive, or most of them take it?
Oh, God, no. I'm sure most of them take it.
It's better than corporate, I'm sure.
So,
I bet it
Much
has a
better, yeah.
I bet it has a deductible, though.
yeah, so one of my goals this year is that I want to come out with a pretty robust opt-out plan. Because I think that if I can entice some people to come off the plan, it'll save the town. Sure.
You would compensate them to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot
My
of
If I
company-
didn't take health insurance at the
my-
bank, they'd
my
say,
company
okay,
used
good.
to-
Yeah, a lot
Yeah,
of,
really.
Right.
a lot
thing
of
is that
companies
We do.
though, as these prices
Say, thank
have,
God.
as the costs have risen, a lot of companies are doing that. 'cause it
If it's a
actually
really large
saves in the
company,
long
they
run.
would do
But the
that.
reality is this, is that, when almost 100% is on a family plan,
Right.
Yeah.
and almost 100% of your employees take your insurance,
Yeah.
an opt-out plan, I don't need a lot of numbers to be able to actually drive some savings.
Right, right.
Again, if I could get 250 people, if I could get 5%, you're talking 13 people.
Yeah.
If all of them are family plans and they're $17,000 a pop,
Yeah.
now all of a sudden I can really save a decent amount of money.
Right.
All right, anybody have any other questions on the budgets?
Not tonight.
So the other item we have on our agenda is the discussion of future meeting dates. So have we been through all the budgets now? We've seen all the presentations.
So your next meeting, which was originally gonna be April 19th, I know you gotta discuss that next.
Right.
But your next meeting, you are gonna start voting on budgets.
Yeah.
All right, so the dates I'm looking at that we have set up, I can't do Thursday, April 19th. So we were gonna try for Monday, April 23rd,
Okay.
Monday, April 30th,
Why do we have to do Mondays?
because the other nights aren't available for various reasons. Monday, April 30th,
And I will tell you, Jerry, what you've done the last couple of years is you've done Thursday and Monday nights. You've usually done 2 Thursday nights and 1 Monday night, or 2 Monday nights and 1 Thursday night.
Yeah,
And we're gonna
that's
attempt to do it in 3 nights.
So, okay, so you said, so April 5th, okay, that's, so that we don't have any meeting plan, and you're proposing April 23rd, not April 19th,
Correct.
and then April 30th.
April 30th.
Okay.
And then the following meeting after that would be Tuesday, May 1st. And those would be
You're killing me.
those are the 3 nights to do the voting on the budgets. Looking at Thursday, which we already have scheduled, Thursday, May 3rd, to vote on the articles. And then possibly Thursday, May 17th, to vote on the special town meeting articles.
And as I said to Meredith earlier, last year you did not hold your May 17th meeting because we only had one special article, and that was to transfer for snow and ice, which you know you have to do.
Have to do it right.
And so you actually did that the night of town meeting.
Oh, right.
And, or maybe, and so
When's
that
town meeting?
town meeting is gonna be June 4th. It's Monday, June 4th. So you may not need that 17th because I don't know what we'll need for specials. And if we do need special town articles, usually it's no more than 2 or 3. That's usually a pretty quick night. So the idea is that those 3 nights that Meredith referred to, April 23rd, April 30th, and May 1st, you would vote on the budgets. And again, if you can get through the budgets in 2 nights, you don't need that 3rd night. You've done that once. One year you needed 4 nights, the other 2 you needed 3. So, you know, usually,
So Thursday, May 3rd is not available?
no, Thursday, May 3rd, you are meeting.
Oh,
We
that's
are
right,
meeting.
Thursday, May
Articles.
3rd, right.
Because Thursday, May 3rd, you'll be voting on articles. Because the Board of
Okay.
Selectmen on May 2nd will be placing articles on the agenda at that time. And we don't know what those will be until that night.
Anyone have any questions or
So
any
the-
other topics for discussion
Yeah, the 26th is not available for us to meet?
of April?
Yeah.
Well, as I said, unfortunately.
Oh, that's right. No,
I
it's not.
had an issue come up, so if you want to meet, you can. I can't be here that night. And I apologize, but something came up that I have to be at.
I have a question. Capital budget, they met
Today. Yesterday.
yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Wow, feels like it was so long
And
ago.
God.
What?
I had to go to a meeting with my boss. I was hoping she'd forget. I was like hiding underneath the desk. And then she walked by and she goes, well, see, I'm going to the meeting. I went by and she went, you're coming, right? I'm like, oh, I was this close. Then I was sitting in the back looking at my watch going, can I
I thought it went really well.
you think she'll miss me if I leave?
Well, it was easy for Mo. He just voted against everything.
Yeah, I don't think you did. But I have a question. I have a question. So those articles will go to the town?
No, not necessarily. They may, but not necessarily. So what the Capital Budget Committee does is they make recommendations and the Board of Selectmen will review that.
Okay.
And they have the ultimate authority whether it goes to the town.
Oh, okay, all right. And that's why the school request for the school resource officer is different. They're bringing that directly to the town?
Yes.
Okay.
But again, that's gonna be a warrant article. The Selectmen can choose not to even
Oh,
place it
okay,
on.
that comes under the
It's just-
articles, okay.
right, it's
See,
just
I
not a-
don't know, that's why I was asking, okay.
But I'm glad you brought that up because on April 3rd, when you vote on articles, you will be voting
May 3rd,
on.
right,
I'm
May
sorry,
3rd.
May 3rd. You'll be voting on all your articles. So it
Yeah,
will
right,
be
recommend, not a
School
recommend,
resource
right,
officer.
right.
But it will also be capital budget and it will be any other warrant articles as well. For example, every year we always fund $10,000 to the Web Task Force, which is a multi-jurisdictional. We do that every single year for our police department. So that'll just be one of the articles you'll vote on. Again, because most of you in the room, and I know Melissa, you haven't, but most of you in the room have seen that before. That one usually takes about 30 seconds. But others will take more time.
All right, any other
Okay.
topic for discussion tonight? Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.